all the data types that we worked on so far were primitive data types. We worked on numbers, which could be integers or floating points. We worked with Boolean data, which can be either true or false. We also worked with strings. These are called primitive data types or primitives in any programming language. Now, from this lecture onwards, we look at some complex data types. The complex data types that you'll encounter in Python are lists, tuples, and dictionaries. Complex data types are usually some kind of collection or aggregation which brings different kinds of data together. Let's see what that means. We'll start off with lists here. Here we set up a list of integers. It contains 6 different integers, multiples of 5 from 5 through to 30. Notice the square brackets which we use to denote a list. This is important. We'll be using this over and over again. We assign this list to the int_list variable. One thing you need to remember when we talk about lists is the fact that lists are ordered collections. The elements in a list have a well-defined order, and when you print a list or when you go through individual elements in a list, they're always returned to you in the same order. Our list of integers has been successfully initialized. List need not be just of integral values. You can have a floating point list as well. Here, this list contains a bunch of floating point numbers. Or you can have a list of strings. This list of strings contains a bunch of names. Notice that the list is once again within square brackets and every string is enclosed in single quotes. Our list of strings has also been successfully initialized. An important thing that you have to know about Python, because this is not true in other programming languages, is the fact that you can have a list with different types of data. So you can have a mixed list which contains an integer, floating point, it contains a string, it contains a Boolean value as well. A list can also contain other lists. This kind of mixed list is completely valid in Python. It's rarely used in programming, but you should know that it's possible to create one such. There are two ways in which you can set up an empty list, and both of these are exactly the same. Notice the sum_list, which I've initialized as an empty list by calling the list functions followed by brackets. You can also initialize an empty list by simply specifying the square brackets, and this method is much more common. Other list is just equal to square brackets. There are no elements within the brackets. It's an empty list. After initializing those variables, some list is an empty list, other list is also an empty list. Let's now see how you access individual elements within a list. Here are a list of students. We have Deb, Judy, Yukti, and Nisarg. This is a 4-element list. If you want to access the very first element in a list, you will use the index 0. Now, for those who've never programmed before, this might seem completely unintuitive, but this is something that you need to get used to quickly. The first element of the list is at index 0, and you use the square brackets to access that element. And this gives us the student Deb correctly. Now, why index 0? There's some logic to this, and it depends on how the list is laid out in memory. We don't have to worry about that. The only thing we have to worry about here is that the first element is at index 0, the second element is at index 1. This will access the element Judy. Extending this logic, if you wanted to access the very last element in this 4-element list, you would use the index 3. So notice the index numbering of the list elements. This gives us the element Nisarg, the last element in our list. Now, what if we try to access the list with a number beyond the last element in the list? Here we've tried to access the students list at index 4. There are only 4 elements numbered from index 0 to 3. This is an error. This is an index error, and as you're learning to program, you'll find this often when you're working with lists. Notice the error clearly states that the list index is out of range. The range for this list is from index 0 to 3. We can revisit the built-in len function once again, and you'll find that it works with lists as well. This is extremely useful to find the length of a list. Here it tells us that students has 4 elements. Here is the original list printed to screen. Individual elements of this list can be updated using the index operator that we saw earlier. Here we want to update the element at index 3, that is the fourth element in the list, to be Surbhi rather than Nisarg. And you can see that the list has been updated. Only the fourth element has been replaced by Surbhi. If you want to update the element at index 2, which is the third element in the list, you can do it by specifying 2 within square brackets. Here, Momita is now the third element in the list at index 2. Python allows you to call functions on the list itself, which will change the value within the list. You can add a new element to the very end of the list by using the append function. Here I want to add the string or the name Anuradha to the end of my students list. The students list has been modified. Anuradha is at the end. Let's add one more student here. We'll add Ubaid to the end of the list. Now Anuradha is the second to last element. Ubaid is the last element. If you now calculate the length of the students list, you will find that it has increased. There are now 6 students in this list. You can also modify a list in other ways. You can insert an element within a list by specifying the index where you want that element to go. When you specify the index 0, as you can see here, the element will go to the very beginning of the list. The student Anisha is now the first element in this list. You can insert elements in any index position as long as that index is within range, that is 0 to length minus 1. If 0 is the first element of the list, length minus 1 is the last element in the list. So for a 4 element list, 3 is the last element. We insert the student Bansi at index position 1. Bansi now becomes the second element in the list. Let's set up another students list called other students. The student names are Ishan, Pranoti, and Priya. Lists can be concatenated as well using the plus operator. You can have a single list of all students by concatenating the students and the other students list. When we use the plus operator for concatenation, the original list of students and other students are not affected. If you want to add more than one element in one go to the end of the list, you can use the extend function. The extend function takes as its input argument another list, and it has added Elroy and Neil to the end of our students list. You can also append to the end of a list using the plus equal to operator. We've used this with primitive types. It works with lists as well. Kishan and Dhwani will be added to the end of the students list, and the result will be stored in the students list itself. You can see in the result here, Kishan and Dhwani are present at the very end. Let's look at some other list functions. The index function on a list will give you the index of a particular element in the list. For example, Judy is now at index position 3. Remember that the first element of the list is at index position 0. Now, when you're working with Python, remember that when you're using string, the case matters. It matters whether you specify the string in uppercase, lowercase, or any of its combinations. In this example, we want to find the index of the student Kishan, but we've specified K in small case. When we had originally added Kishan to the list, K was specified in capital case. Kishan with K in small case does not exist in the list, which means we get a value error. It says Kishan is not in the list. Errors in Python can be fairly descriptive, so it's important when you encounter an error that you read the error message. That will give you ideas. Other ways to use the error is simply to cut paste it into Google search or some other search engine. You'll find other people who encounter this error and they'll give you solutions for it. If you now fix this code so that we specify Kishan with a capital K, you'll find that this element exists in our list at index 10. Removing individual elements from a list is easy. You can do it using the remove function. Here I try to remove Kishan, and you can see in the resulting list that the Kishan string no longer exists. Strings that you specify for the remove operation also have to be an exact match of the strings present in the list. Otherwise, the remove operation will throw an error. Lists also have a very handy sort functionality, which allows you to sort the elements of the list by default in ascending order. Typically, you won't use the sort function on the list itself. There is another built-in function that we'll look at later for sorting. You can reverse the elements of a list using the reverse function. Many of these functions are named in a very intuitive way. You should just look them up and see how they work. The pop function on a list removes the very last element in the list. Here we've popped the element Anisha. It no longer exists within the list. Invoking the students.pop function once again will remove the last element, which now is Anuradha. Anuradha has disappeared from the list. Python is all about making very complex operations simple. However, the syntax is often hard to follow, and slicing operations on lists is a great example of this. List slicing is a way to access subsets of a list. If you want just the first two elements in a list, you'll use list slicing. If you want the last five elements, list slicing once again. If you want every second element in a list slicing is what you'll use. We'll continue to work with the students list for this demo, and the contents of the students list is as you see on screen. We'll start off with the use of negative indices because in my opinion, they are one of the most confusing parts of Python. When you encounter a negative index in square brackets, you have to count backwards from the very end of the list. Here, -1 indicates that you want the last element in the list. If you count backwards, you want the first element. The minus just indicates count from the very end. And that's where you get Bansi, which is the last element in our list. If you're trying to access the -2th element in a list, that is the second to last element. Counting from the very end, it's the second element. Second last element is Dhwani in our list. I'm going to display the list for you once again so that you have it for reference. We'll now see the notation to access a range of elements from within our list. Here, students of 0:2 basically means that we want to access all elements from starting from the index 0 going up to index 2. However, the student at index 2 will not be in the result. So this result will contain two students, the students which are present at index 0 and index 1. Students of 0:4 will slice out students who are at index 0, 1, 2, and 3. The student at index 4 is not included. Students of 3:7 will include students at index 3, 4, 5, 6, but not at index 7. So it's important for you to remember that the start index is inclusive and the end index is exclusive. In Python, you can also write index notations such as what you see on screen. Students, and then there is no number, then a colon, and then 3. When there is no number specified, it's assumed to be the start of the list. Omitting the start index will give you all students from the beginning of the list. So we get all students starting with Ubaid and going up to index 2. The student at index 3 is not included. Similarly, Python also allows you to omit the index, specifying the end of your slicing operation. Here the start index is 3, we have a colon and then nothing. This means start from index 3 and go up to the very end of the list. List slicing can seem quite confusing even though it's actually very simple. What used to be really confusing for me is when I saw negative indices within list slicing operations. But we already know that negative indices mean count from the end of the list. Here, let's parse what's going on. We want to start from the beginning of the list. We've omitted the start index, then there is the colon, and we want to go up to the second last element in the list. Second to last student in our list is Dhwani. That student will not be included. So we go from Ubaid up to Elroy. Some more practice will make this clear. We want to start from the beginning of the list and go up to the fourth to last element in the list. We do not want to include the fourth to last element. So we go from Ubaid to Momita. Practice makes perfect. Let's see, we want the element starting from index 1 going up to the second to last element. That means we'll go from Surbhi all the way to Elroy but not include Dhwani, the second to last element. We'll make things a little more complicated. Here we want to go from the fourth to last element up to the second to last element. That means we want to start at Judy and go up to the second last element, that is Dhwani, but not include Dhwani. Remember, the end index is exclusive. Python also allows you to replace a range of elements in a list. Here we want to replace the elements at index 1 and 2 with Akshar and Amit, and that's what you see in the result. The elements within a Python list can be another list. So lists can be made up of lists, and that is a matrix. Here we have a two-dimensional matrix where we have two list elements within the outer list. In order to access a single element within this matrix, you'll need two square brackets, and you'll specify an index within each square bracket. The first index is for the row and the second index for the column. This is how we access the very first element at index 0, 0. If you want to access the element which is in the first row but the second column, you'll use the indices 0 and 1. This will give you the element 20. Here are the elements in the first row and third column. This is index 0, 2. That is the element 30. Remember that list indices start with 0, and that applies to 2D lists as well, to matrices as well. This gives you the number in the second row and first column. You can apply the len operation on multi-dimensional lists as well. This len function will give you the length of the outer list. The outer list has a length of 2. It has 2 list elements within it. If I want the length of the first list element, I'll pass in matrix of 0 to the len function, and that will give me a length of 3. Complex data types such as lists, tuples, and dictionaries have some unusual behavior that you should be aware of. This is a place where new programmers often make mistakes, so please pay close attention. Now, let's say you make a copy of a list. Here I have students copy, and I've assigned it to students. A very quick check will show me that the contents of students copy is exactly the same as the contents of students. Now I'm going to go ahead and edit the first list. I'm going to go ahead and remove Ubaid as a student from the original list. Now, if you look at students copy, you'll find that Ubaid is no longer a student in our list copy as well. This is not a true copy. Notice that Ubaid is not present. Our modification of the original list has modified the so-called copy as well. So when you use the assignment operator, when you assign one list to another, any changes to the original list will be reflected in the copy, and any changes to the copy will be reflected in the original list. When you use the assignment operator with the list, that is the equal to sign, that's not a true copy. Both copy list and original list reference the same list. Changes to one will be reflected in the other. Let's try and remove an element from our copy. Students copy.remove Surbhi, but Surbhi is not present in the list, which is why this throws a value error. And notice the message says X not in list. The message is actually pretty clear. You can confirm that Surbhi is not in the list by printing out the students list. At the very beginning of this demo, we'd set up an integer list. These are the contents of that list. We've spoken earlier of how a number of built-in functions such as len work with lists as input arguments. We pass in the int list to the len function, and we get the length of the list, that is 6. Now there are other built-in functions which work as well, such as max. You can pass in the int list as an input argument to the max function, and it will give you the maximum value in that list, which is 30. Similarly, the min function can also accept a list, and that will give you the minimum value in the list, which is 5. There are other functions such as sum, which work on list elements as well. This will simply sum up all the values in the list and give you the result. The elements in our current integer list is sorted. Let's add some more unsorted elements to the very end by using the extend function. Our integer list is no longer sorted in the ascending order. There are some random elements at the end. We can now sort this list by calling the sorted built-in function. And this sorted built-in function is in fact more efficient than the sort function on the list itself. The sorted function will return a sorted list. It will not affect the original list. Here we can see our sorted list of integers. The original list of integers remain as is. If you have a choice, make sure that you use the sorted built-in function for sorting rather than the sort function on the list itself. They perform the exact same operation, but the sorted built-in function is more optimal and does not affect the original list, which is why it's preferred.